Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Black Financial Channel. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. And I wanted to come in today to speak for a little bit and to talk to you about what's going on in the financial markets, what's happening in the economic world. I'm actually reporting to you live in a hotel room. So that's why you might see a messy bed in the background. But you know me, I have no shame, which means that I will tell you what needs to be said, and I'll tell you where it needs to get told. So anyway, I want to remind everybody. Don't forget that if you haven't subscribed to the blackfinancialchannel.com, that's theblackfinancialchannel.com. You don't know what you're missing. It's a great place to learn about Black economics. If you're big on Black economics like I am, then you want to subscribe to theblackfinancialchannel.com, mainly because we keep it Black and we keep it financial. And why is that important? Well, it's important because our economic situation is the most important thing happening in our generation. It's the most important thing happening in the Black community worldwide right now. So I think that we have to have Black economics at the top of our agenda. And so what's going on, everybody? I see Young Panther and John the Agent, and JP in Motion and Miyoki Baby and stuff like that. If you guys have any questions to get started, feel free to ask questions. What's up, Twitter? Dr. Boyce Watkins 1, Dr. Boyce Watkins 1 is the Twitter. I want to say hi to everybody on Twitter, everybody on Instagram, the Real Boyce Watkins, that's the Instagram, the Real Boyce Watkins. So make sure you pop in on Instagram. I'm gonna send out a text to let everybody know that we're about to get started. So go ahead if you have a question or something you want to kick the conversation off with, pop your question in, and I'm gonna literally jump from YouTube to Instagram to Twitter and try to grab as many questions as I can, while at the same time throwing in a couple of points on Black wealth. I'm at the A.G. Gaston conference down in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm going to be speaking tomorrow. Angela Rye speaks today, and I'll be supporting her. But then tomorrow, I'll be speaking in the afternoon at a luncheon. The title of the session is called Green Power. And I've been meditating on this. I've been meditating on the life of the great A.G. Gaston, who, if you don't know about A.G. Gaston, he should be one of those people that your children automatically know about in school. You know, to hell with all the George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and slave masters and all this stuff. You need to learn about your own people first. You need to learn about your own people first. And that's our big issue. We don't learn about ourselves. We learn about everybody else. And then you wonder why Black people don't want to be themselves. They want to be everybody else. Well, because you're going to want to be whatever you're learning about and what you're taught to admire. You're taught to admire them, and you're not taught to admire you. So anyway, I'm gonna send out a quick text message to let everybody know that we're live right now. And if you ever want to get text alerts, all you have to do is text the word Boyce, Boyce, to 31996. Text Boyce to 31996, and I can send you a text when I go live. We pop in, we do all kinds of creative stuff because we believe in intelligent Black media. So give me 1 second here. And you know what, I was one thing I'll tell you is there is something I was reading yesterday, and it was a really compelling article about a big myth in Black wealth. A lot of you may have heard, I know in Maggie Anderson's book, I think it was called My Black Wealth Year or something like that, where she spent, or maybe it was called, no, it wasn't called My Black Wealth Year. Maybe it was My Black Year or something like that. Anyway, where she spent the whole year buying black. You know, one of the statistics that she cited in that book was a stat where basically it is claimed that a dollar only stays in the Black community for about 6 hours or something like that. And that in the Jewish community, it stays for what, 19, 20 days. Asian community keeps it 15 days, something like that. In the Black community, it only stays 6 hours. Well, here's the issue with that statistic. There's a lot of evidence to say that that stat doesn't exist, that actually cannot be confirmed or has not been confirmed by any scientific study. And I want to give props to the people at the website Truth Be Told News. Truthbetold.news did a very thorough investigation of that statistic. In fact, I'm trying to find the author of the article. I don't see, Brookie Madison at truthbetold.news did a deep dive into that statistic and basically found that there's no evidence to support that statistic because it wasn't ever found in a scientific study. It was literally one of those things that gets repeated over and over again, and people repeat it because they heard somebody else repeat it. Roland Martin repeated it, and Roland Martin repeated it because Maggie Anderson wrote it. Maggie Anderson wrote it because it was in a lady's book in 1996. Well, the lady who wrote the book, they went back and looked at the original book, and she didn't actually cite any scientific evidence. I think the stat, at least the stat, didn't have any sort of reference to any sort of study. Now here's the thing, though. Does this mean that it's a lie that Black people, that it's a myth that we give all of our wealth away? No, that's not true. We do. We give a lot of our money away. We have about 1.2 trillion in Black spending power, or what they call Black spending power. But what happens is we use that so-called spending power to disempower ourselves. Power is not your power if you give your power to somebody else. That is not empowerment. That is disarmament almost. Like we disarm ourselves every time we get an economic gun. We hand the gun over to white folks so they can use it and point it and shoot us in the face. That's what we do. We literally, out of that 1.2 trillion that we receive every year in income, which is more wealth, more income than 95% of all countries on this planet. Most countries on this earth do not have a gross domestic product that exceeds the amount of income that Black people receive every year in America. We get that money, and what happens is we give it right back to white folks. Now here's something I want you to process. I want you to think about. So there's been a whole conversation. There's the whole movement hashtag ADOS, a descendant of slaves, which I support. And Dr. Claude Anderson has the Us Too movement, which is another hashtag which we should all use, Us Too, USTOO. I support that as well because I'm big on the powernomics and everything else. And one of the things that people have argued in favor of, which again I agree with 100%, which is ADOS stands for, I believe it stands for a descendant of slaves or a descendant of slavery. I don't know for sure, but I support it, and I go out of my way to make sure you guys know I support it, because it was actually created by a person who hates my guts, who literally makes a living trying to talk about how much she can't stand me, but as a show of unity and a show of hopefully maturity to the community, I'm letting you guys know that I don't really give a damn if she likes me or not. I support the hashtag. I support the idea because this is what we've all been preaching on this, right? We've all been preaching on this idea that as a descendant of slaves, Black people are in a unique position. Black people deserve we are in a unique set of circumstances. We deserve unique consideration when it comes to, how the government sets its policies. This whole idea of one tide lifts all boats does not work. It will not. Cory Booker tried that on The Breakfast Club. Thank God everybody shot him down. Kamala Harris tried a little bit harder, but Kamala's got to come a little bit better with what she's got. In fact, Kamala might not be the right person. Maybe you need another person besides Kamala, a candidate that's put forward by the Black community as opposed to a corporate Democrat, to actually help Black folks really feel empowered in the political process. I don't know. But the idea, though, at the end of the day is that as descendants of slaves, we deserve reparations. Now, here's my point. Now, let's say, for example, white folks did the impossible. I call it the impossible because think about this. When you're asking for reparations, what you're doing is you're asking a dysfunctional government to become functional for the sole purpose of supporting and empowering Black people. You're asking them to, you're asking people in Congress who cannot work together, who can't even decide, who can't even agree on what color toilet paper to put in the damn bathroom. You're asking them to unify, miraculously unify in a historic way to do something they've never done before, which is to empower 40 million Black folks, right? That's what you're asking. But let's assume that they pull this together. Let's assume that by some miracle of Black Jesus and white Jesus, because you don't need multiple Jesuses to pull this off. They all come together, Democrats and Republicans alike, come together and gain the political will to push forward $1 trillion reparations bill. Now, $1 trillion is a number I picked not because that's an accurate amount for reparations. Actually, most studies say that reparations should be in the range of 12 to 15 trillion to really make Black people economically whole relative to what what was actually taken from us. But let's say they gave us $1 trillion. $1 trillion is, Ramona brings up Marion Williamson discussing reparations of 100 billion. Let's assume that they see Marion's number and they say, not only do we agree with you, but we're going to multiply that number by 10. So Congress will allocate not $100 billion to reparations for Black folks. We're gonna allocate a full trillion, make it a cool trillion, right? Well, I want you to process this for a minute. So if white folks all came together, if this government came together and said, we're going to give $1 trillion to Black people for reparations, I want you to process what that might mean. While we might receive, let's say we receive that trillion, well, think about this. Black people receive about 1.1 trillion in income every year. And we give about $1 trillion of that 1.1 trillion right back to white businesses. The same people that took everything from you, you give back $1 trillion a year to that very same system. You are a huge benefactor of white supremacy. You are a huge funder of white supremacy, like almost like political candidates get elected to office because they have donors and financial backers. Well, white supremacy, that system thrives because they've got $1 trillion donor called the Black community. So if you're giving $1 trillion right back to the same people who hate your guts, then what good is a $1 trillion reparations bill gonna do if you're gonna give the $1 trillion right back? You see, you can have all the water in the ocean, but you can never fill a leaky bucket. You can never fill a bucket that's bottomless and has a big hole in the bottom where all the water that goes in goes out. You can have all the water in the ocean. You could pour 20 trillion gallons of water in that bucket and the bucket will remain empty until you engage in the very important task of sealing the hole and sealing the bottom of that bucket. You see, so for Black people, this is your #1 challenge right now. This is the big challenge in this generation. This is where our accountability must be supreme, no matter what happens here, is that your big challenge is that economically, we are a leaky bucket as a community. We are trained to be leaky buckets. We are bottomless pits. We are like those people on that BET show. I lost a bag, or I threw away a bag. You ever seen that? Where literally on this show, all they do is they profile one Black person after another who received $5-10 million and blew it all on strippers and Gucci and new cars and hotel rooms and ended up broke. And they think that shit's funny. They think that's hilarious. They think that's so funny. You'd be like, oh yeah, shoot me. When I made that Chris Brown song, we got about 5 million, man. I was going to the club. We was dropping 100,000. And then I bought this and bought that and bought a Lamborghini and blah. And man, it was fun. But I kind of regret it, but it was fun, right? Like we think that's funny, right? And the thing is that show will never run out of subject lines. They'll never run out of potential guests, because there are millions of people out here who can say that they had money in their pocket and gave it all away, because that is what we call in economics, we call that a systematic problem. You see, you've got problems that are what they call idiosyncratic, which is like one-offs, just like, okay, it happened one time, but it don't happen that much. And then you have things that are systematic, like, damn, that shit happens every time. That happens all the time. I know 20 people that did that same damn thing. You could go to New York, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, New Jersey, and find the same Negro who did the same damn thing, who got, a bunch of money and blew it all, on strippers and weed and Lamborghinis and Gucci, right? Because systematically, we have a problem with Black consumption patterns and Black economic habits. Just like the Jews have a systematic habit of keeping the money in their community, Black people, unfortunately, have been cursed with a systematic habit of giving all of our money away. So when you confront the reparations issue, we must confront the reparations issue, not just a matter of us receiving healing from those who've abused us. The healing, the dominant healing, must come from ourselves and from our own community, because you can't really rely on the abuser to heal the abused. The abuser will never heal the abused. The abuser might apologize. The abuser might make things right, maybe pay some restitution, but the abuser himself has a mindset that's built on abuse. He has a set of habits that are not really ever going to go away. And so you can't rely on the abuser to not to not just apologize and to make things right economically or whatever, but you can't also expect the abuser to come back and actually do the psychological healing that the abused needs to go through in order to be whole again. The rapist will never be a good therapist for the rape victim. The rapist can never, help the rape victim overcome the psychological effects of the rape, right? The best the rapist can do is go to prison. He can apologize. Maybe he can pay some money, as kind of like, in a lawsuit as like an apology or whatever. But he can't be the person also responsible for healing the rapist, or excuse me, the rape victim from the trauma that they experienced in that process. So maybe some of what I would like to do for the Black community, maybe people like myself and Dr. Claude Anderson, is we can be the therapists that help the victim to overcome the effects of the abuse, right? Because Black people, let's just be real, we've been financially raped. We have been economically raped for hundreds of years, and we're going to need therapy to overcome the effects of that, right? Most abuse victims go right back to the abuser. And so if you talk about economic versions of Stockholm syndrome, nobody has it more than Black folks, because it doesn't make any logical sense that the very same people who stole everything from you are the ones who are the greatest economic benefactors from any sort of economic growth that you experience within your community. That doesn't make any sense. So anyway, let me ask you guys this. If you're on the Black Financial Channel on YouTube, please stop for a second, hit that thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button, because we're growing the Black Financial Channel. If you haven't subscribed to theblackfinancialchannel.com, please do that. That is where we talk Black economics all the time. And it's a great place for you and your family to be a part of intelligent Black media. So feel free to go to, also, if you want to just support and make a monthly donation to the platform, whatever it is you want to do, you can actually go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. It's not a donation. We don't accept donations. It is actually something that you can support in exchange for all kinds of free stuff that we offer you as a trade, as a thank you for your being a part of the growth of intelligent Black media. So all right, so let me go in and I'm gonna look at some of your questions. Dr. Claude Anderson can oversee the committee. Yeah, I'm looking at Instagram right now, so I'm gonna look at some of your questions. So if you're on IG and you got a question, pop it in there, and I'm gonna do rapid fire Q&A with a lot of these questions. Yes, I think Dr. Claude Anderson should oversee the committee. Today I was talking about Dr. Anderson as well at this A.G. Gaston conference. If you haven't studied the life of A.G. Gaston, you got to study his life. This was a Black man who, started off working in a coal mine. And in the coal mine, he saw that there were the lunches his mother used to make for him. All the guys loved the lunch that he would bring, so he started selling them. He had his mama cook extra food that he could sell to the guys at work. And then he saw that they needed to borrow money, so he started loaning them money for 25% interest. So he literally, as a man who only went to school to the 10th grade, he became a businessman and a banker, and never went to business school. He didn't have no MBA. He didn't have no BA, BS degree. He didn't do none of that. He just saw a need and fulfilled that need. So one of the biggest myths about entrepreneurship and wealth building is that you have to go to school a long time to learn these things. That's just not true. You don't have to go to school to be a business owner or entrepreneur. Most great entrepreneurs, in fact, a lot of them never went to college. Let's see here. How much of reparations should be in land? I mean, I don't have a number in mind, but I think land is very important. I think even if the reparations doesn't come anytime soon, I think that you want to learn about, home ownership. In fact, 2019 is the year of Black home ownership. I declared it to be the year of Black home ownership. So this is the year where I would like for you to spend at least 19 hours 19 hours, maybe not 19 hours. I think I said, or maybe it's 20 hours. I can't remember what the number was, but spend 19 to 20 hours doing nothing but studying how to own a home. Okay. So if you haven't learned how to own a home, I want you to learn how to do that. Okay. So give me a second. Oh, man, damn. I'm off of Twitter. I was on Twitter, but they lost me. Oh, well. Anyway, let's see here. Hey, Boyce, can you discuss Jay-Z's verse in What's Free with Meek Mill? I have not seen Jay-Z's verse in What's Free with Meek Mill, but let me see if I can look it up. All right, let's see. I'm gonna type Jay-Z's verse and Meek Mill was free. All right, what's his verse? A breakdown of Jay-Z's verse. Okay, Very Smart Brothers breaks it down. Oh Lord, they're connected with the root. The root is such a I hate that website. But let me see here. Where's the verse? Okay, in the land of the free, where the blacks enslaved. Okay, 3/5 of a man, I believe, is the phrase. That's pretty self-explanatory. 50% of the use of the us and its free debt. Okay. Um, okay, and it's debt free. Okay. 100% ace of spades worth half of B. Okay, I don't even know what this. I can't. Rock Nation, half of that. That's my piece. 100% of title to bust it up with my G. So it sounds like he's talking about ownership. Since most of my niggas won't ever work together, you run a checkup, but they never give you leverage. Let's see here. No red hat, don't Michael and Prince me and Ye. Okay, so he's saying I'm not part of the MAGA thing. They separate you when you got Michael and Prince's DNA. So I guess divide and conquering black people. Okay, makes sense. I ain't one of those house niggas you bought. My house like a resort. My house bigger than yours. Okay. My spouse. Come on, man. Talking about Beyonce, I guess. My route better, of course. I don't know what that means. We started without food in our mouth. Okay, we started off poor. They gave us pork and pig intestines. Okay. Shit you discarded that we ingested. We made the project a wave. Okay. So basically, like, we took the poverty and the desperation of being black in America and made that into something that that everybody wanted to emulate, which is true. I've heard from people, executives and major sneaker companies that say that basically they pay attention to the habits of urban black males to decide what's trendy and what's not. You came back, reinvested, and gentrified it. Yeah, okay, you know what gentrification is. Took niggas' sense of pride. Now, how's that free? Okay, I don't know what that means. I kind of know what it means, but it's that's again self-explanatory. And then people stole the soul and hit niggas with 360s, huh? Okay. Oh, 360 deals, like in the record industry. So in the recording industry, they do these 360 deals where they kind of lock down everything, that your brand, all the economic value of your brand by basically saying that whenever you do anything, we get a piece of that. And so that's really true in the sense that, I know guys that are good businessmen who are also rappers. And if you're a rapper and you're a good businessman and you know how to monetize your brand, recording deals don't look as good as they look when you're broke. So if you're broke and don't understand business, then you spend your life trying to get a record deal. But when you actually learn how to make a little bit of money off your brand, like say D1 or Immortal Technique or Tech Nine, you don't want to sign with a record label, because what happens is they steal your freedom and steal your money, and they exchange that for financial security. So a bully or an oppressor basically gives you a trade. They offer you security in exchange for freedom. That's what it is, right? So, for example, if God forbid, if we were in a war tomorrow, what Donald Trump would do is he'd say something like, "We're in a war. I know everybody's afraid. We'll make you safe, but we need to take away all your freedoms, and you need to give me infinite power as president to do whatever I want." Right? So it's like, look, sit down, shut up. I'm gonna take all your freedom, but I'll keep you safe. And so, the only people that don't want that are people that are able to provide their own security. So if you're able to provide your own financial security, then you don't really want a record deal a lot of times, because you're like, why would I give away my freedom? Because I already know how to be secure. And that was actually my experience as a professor. When I was a professor, when you first get your job in academia, the big thing everybody fights for is this thing called tenure. Tenure is where you have a job for life and you have financial security for life. Well, the trade-off though is that to get tenure, you've got to give away all of your intellectual freedom. You have no freedom of speech. You have to worry about, what you say, because you don't want to offend the wrong people. And that's very difficult as a black man, because I was a black scholar who had a lot to say. I was very good at what I did, and I had a lot of intellectual energy. all this knowledge, and I was like, I want to spit it out. I got things I got to say. I got to get this out of my system, and I would get punished for that. And so what I realized was that the only way I could truly be free is to learn how to pay my bills. Because in America, freedom really isn't free. In a capitalist society, freedom has a price tag attached to it. If you can't afford to pay the price for freedom, then you don't get freedom in America. You don't even get justice in America if you can't afford justice. Like you go get in trouble and not be able to pay for a lawyer. A lot of people are in jail right now because they're poor. They're not in jail because they're bad people, because you got bad people walking the streets all kinds of stuff. The Trump family, look at how many crimes they've committed. They walking around free as birds, right? Well, that's because freedom ain't free and they can afford to pay the price. So what I think that we got to do is for those of us who are realists about all of this, is you have to kind of find a way to, what's the word? You have to find a way to be honest with yourself about how this game is really played, instead of believing the myth that you're taught in school. Let's see, you heard the Dame apology. Please comment. The Dame apology. Who did Dame apologize to? I don't follow that. But if Dame apologized for something, tell me. I think that's very interesting. Did he apologize to me? I don't know, because I don't think I'm not mad at him or anything, but maybe there was an apology. Who knows? Let me see. Should I join the NRA, National Real Estate Association? Yeah, absolutely. I think being connected to people who are good at what you want to be good at is a great way to get ahead. I think it's also a great way to create opportunities. A lot of wealth is created because wealth is built in circles. It's like if you are around people who are making money, you're going to make money because they're going to invite you to be a part of the things that they're doing to make money. The best way to make more money is to get involved in a project with people that have a track record of economic success. So for example, I'm doing a film deal right now, of a film partnership with a guy named Rick Mathis. And Rick Mathis, we partnered together because we both have track records of success. He's seen me succeed at things and build things and things that work and things that make money. I've seen him. He put out Black Friday. Black Friday was enormously successful. So it was a natural, very easy partnership, because I know he can carry his weight. He knows I can carry mine. And that's how you form good teams. And the thing about being Black is that you got to learn the importance of teamwork. You got to learn the importance of working together, because a lot of us become one man, one woman shows, because we got this hardworking kind of slave thing going on, and we try to do everything by ourselves. But you can't be the accountant and the manager and the secretary and the president and the garbage man all at the same time in your same damn company. You got to learn how to delegate. Dr. Umar needs more money for the school. I don't have any more thoughts on the school that I really want to go into, because I don't want to. I told you all my goal in 2019 is to make sure I don't end up in any ridiculous fights with Black people. But I will only say that I've seen people start schools. The brother that runs Freedom Home Academy, Marcus Klein, he started his school. We made a $5,000 donation to his school. We created a tiny little scholarship in the name of my grandmother, Felicia. And I called my manager and I said, did he get the money? And she said, yeah. I said, well, what's he going to do with it? And she said, oh, he's going to open up another school in Atlanta. I said, with $5,000? She said, yeah, that was what he needed to get the building. I said, well, shit, let's get him some more money. Because if he can do that with $5,000, I love that, because Freedom Home Academy International is better than any public school I've ever seen. It's in Chicago. It's a great school. And I'm like, he did all that with $5,000. I'm not sure I can hear somebody tell me that they got $500,000 and don't know what to do with it or don't have enough money. That just doesn't sit well with me. It does not mean that I'm dissing. It just means that's not so much my thing. I made a donation though. I did donate to Umar's school. I'll donate again because I support it. I think Umar's a smart man. But I think that we got to get past this notion that one school is gonna change everything. Get off this superhero stuff, man. Stop thinking it's one amazing person who's a great speaker that's gonna transform the whole Black community. No, it's gonna be all of us working together, right? It's not gonna be one great school that's gonna educate everybody. No, you need about 10,000 schools in the Black community. You need the utilization of digital technology so that we can reach millions of people, not 200 kids that get the fortune of attending LeBron school in Cleveland. Again, no dissing on what LeBron has done. I think it's great. No dissing on what Umar has done. None at all. Great men, absolutely. But the thing about it is that if you look at the history of power throughout this world, how power is built, how nations are built, how economic strength is built. Power and nation building and economic strength are typically built through the ability to mass produce that which you deem most valuable. It is mass production that creates power. The United States won World War II for this very reason. They were able to win World War II not because they had the best ships. Other countries had better ships. They didn't win World War II because they had the best tanks. The Germans had far better tanks. They had the Panzers. The Russians had better tanks too. They didn't win because they had the best airplanes. No, thank you. The Germans had jet airplanes. We did not have jets at all. They invented jet airplanes. They invented rocket ships. They had better submarines. Do you know why the Americans were able to dominate World War II? It was because they had one simple skill that other countries did not have. They had the ability to mass produce the things they needed to win. So their whole approach was, your planes might be faster than ours, but we're going to produce 20 planes for every one plane that you produce. So we'll have 20 mediocre planes against one really fast jet, and I bet you our 20 planes will be able to shoot down your one jet. We're going to produce 50 ships for every one ship that you produce. We're going to make 1,000 bullets for every 20 bullets that you're able to produce, right? And that's how they won the war. So Black people must, as we shift our economic thinking, we've got to start thinking in terms of scale. We got to start thinking in terms of institution building, structure, delegation, right? Repetition, right? That's how you build powerful engines, systematizing things. For example, A.G. Gaston, the guy that whose name is on this conference that I'm speaking at, one of the areas where A.G. Gaston came a little bit short was that A.G. Gaston was an amazing man, but A.G. Gaston, according to some people, was a guy who forgot that he's not going to live forever. And so A.G. Gaston lived very, very long. I think he lived to be about 96 years old. But the problem was that because certain things were not systematized in the right way, because the right people had not been put in positions to maintain the strength of his empire after his death, once he was gone, you saw this downslide, right? And that's the trick. The trick is not to see how much you can do while you're alive. See, the magic trick is to see how much can I do when I'm dead, right? How much can I accomplish when I'm gone, right? And in fact, billionaires will say that that the secret to becoming a billionaire is not based on what you do, it's based on what you can get others to help you do, right? So in order to win this wealth game, to win the economic power game, you have to understand teamwork, delegation, working together, structures, systems, and mass production. So when it comes to Black education, I'm not really thinking about what Umar's doing or what one person's doing over here, one person's doing what Jesse Jackson did or what Al Sharpton. It's not about one superhero. It's about the development of systems and structures that can last for 200 years after you're dead. So that's the thinking that I think will get us over the hump. Let's see here. Now, someone said, what business is a great business I can start up at a low cost? I know Andre Hatchett has a notary school. I think being a mobile notary seems to be a great way to make some quick cash. I've seen people even do basic stuff like start driving an Uber. Ubers are a great way to get you to free up your time and still have enough money to pay your bills while you're working on your business, but still have flexibility. The cousin to freedom is flexibility. So if you can't get free time, at least get flexible time, because that way you can put your energies out when when it works for you, as opposed to doing it whenever master tells you to do it. Let's see. Okay, so let's talk about the stock market for a minute. How many of you are invested in the stock market? If you're not invested in the stock market, I hope that you'll start. Today's a great day. Any day is a great day, really. The Dow Jones Industrial Average took a big jump today. It jumped 312 points. If you're trying to learn stock market investing, there's a couple ways you can do it. One way is I do have a stock market class, which is theblackstockmarketprogram.com. It's very, very popular. Everybody loves it. You can get a certificate and a degree in the Black Business School. So feel free to go to theblackstockmarketprogram.com. I've taught students, college students about stock investing for about 25 years. The University of Kentucky, Indiana University, the Ohio State University, Syracuse, etc. Another route is, you can download apps like Acorns, Stash, or Robinhood and just start. You can jump right in. And you can take the class, later if you want to, or maybe never take it at all. It's totally up to you. But the reason I am a big proponent of stock market investing is because when they look at these studies, see, a lot of people will tell you that Black people are poor, but they won't tell you why, right? Other than history, right? They'll tell you about the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow and all the money that was stolen from us, which is true. There's no lie about any of that. Right? We know that that's true. But what they won't really explain to you is not so much how Black people got poor. They can kind of tell you maybe kind of how we got poor, but they don't always tell you why we stay poor. You see, so if I'm explaining to you, if I'm looking at a race and I see, the sprinters out in front and I see the fat kid in the back, I can, explain, history can easily explain why the fat kid is in the back of the race. But that doesn't fully explain why the fat kid is running in the opposite direction, or maybe it doesn't explain why the fat kid isn't moving at all because he's sitting on the track eating Cheetos, right? Or it doesn't explain why the fat kid is running super slow and keeps gaining weight, like he's fatter than he was when the race started, right? So if the fat kid's in the back and somebody says, well, the reason he's not winning is because when the race started, somebody tripped him and they kicked him in his head and left him on the ground and everybody took off running. Like that explains a lot. Absolutely. It explains how he got behind, but it doesn't explain why he stays behind. And it certainly does not explain why he's running in the wrong direction. So Black people economically could be, in America compared to white folks, we're sort of seen like the fat kid in the back of the race. And everybody wants to feel sorry for the fat kid in the back of the race, but nobody actually wants to strategize and say, what would it take to get this kid back in the race? Maybe first of all, we tell him, like, don't run that way. You got to run this way. Everybody's running that way. So turn around, turn your fat ass around and, run this way. That's the direction of the finish line. And then maybe you tell him, no, get up off the track. Don't sit on the track eating Cheetos, like start running. Right. And then maybe for the next race, you say, lose some weight. Let's help you lose some weight so that, these people won't beat you every single time. So for Black people, that's the problem, right? Sometimes where you've been predetermines where you believe that you're supposed to go. If you start in the back of the race, then psychologically you start to believe that you're supposed to be in the back of the race all the time, even when it's a whole new race. Right. So, for Black folks, what kind of happens is that because many of us start off poor, many of us start off in a place that is not consistent with where white people are. We then use that as an avenue or a reason to not even consider ourselves to be candidates for good financial choices or good financial habits, right? So because we start off poor, maybe when we get extra money, we say, well, why would I save this money when I could just spend it on a cheeseburger? Or why would I, try to invest this money in the stock market when I can buy a new pair of Jordans, right? Or why would I go try to make extra money when if I start in a business, when I can just go get a job, or why should I be a homeowner when everybody in my family rents, right? And what we don't understand is that there's a difference between where you are in the race and the rate that you're running in the race right now, right? Whether you're catching up and shrinking the gap, or if you're actually expanding the gap. Because sometimes believing you're a loser causes you to behave like a loser, right? Believing you're in last place causes you to act like you're in last place and to fulfill that prophecy for yourself, because that's how you see yourself, right? So basically, when we study the gaps in wealth, when we study the gap between the poor and the middle class, the gap between the poor and the middle class is defined almost entirely by one factor: home ownership. Home ownership. That is the number one factor that determines whether somebody's poor or somebody actually becomes middle class. So if we could solve that one problem, let's say that we did one thing. Let's Black people look, instead of waiting on the reparations bill and all that stuff, sure, maybe one day white people will all come together and give us $1 trillion in reparations. If they do, I'll support that. I'll clap. I'll say, great job. I'm happy it happened, right? But until that day, maybe what we do is we say, okay, what we're going to at least do is make sure that every single person of color who listens knows the fundamentals of how to own a home, and makes that a goal in life. That becomes a measuring stick of your success as a person, right? Not how fly you looking, not how much gold you got on, not what kind of car you drive, not what kind of job you got, not whether you went to Harvard or Yale or Stanford, none of that bougie shit, none of that artificial stuff. No, the one thing that will determine whether you're doing well economically is whether you own something, right? If you own a house, do you own a business? What do you own, right? If we made that one change, then that would make a huge shift. That would be $1 trillion in reparations right there. That would be $1 trillion that would transfer in wealth to the Black community, because Black people probably give away a couple of $1 trillion every 5 years in economic wealth, just from the amount of rent that we pay to white people, right? Think about all the rent that you've paid. If you're a renter and you've been renting, if you are a renter for say 20 or 25 years, you've actually bought your landlord a house. You literally have given your landlord enough money that they could take that money and turn that into about $250,000 in wealth for their children or their grandchildren, right? So if we just literally take back what we're giving away, that right there is a huge reparations check as it is. The second thing that we found in the studies is that the gap between the rich and the middle class, which is a big concern in the United States right now overall, not just for Black people. The biggest factor in the gap in wealth between the rich and the middle class is stock market participation. Wealthy people, or people that are middle class who eventually become wealthy, are far more likely to have invested in the stock market than people who didn't, right? So I'm not just talking about people who were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. I'm not talking about the Trumps. I'm not talking about the billionaires. I'm talking about that single mom who started off poor, who now has $800,000 in assets or whatever, and owns her own home. If you look at that single mom who started off poor, who now has $800,000 in assets, usually it's because she might have done basic things, like she might have bought her own home as soon as she could. She wasn't out partying. She wasn't out buying fancy cars. She wasn't spending all her money trying to keep her hair done every single week. She saved her money, bought a home, and then two, when she went to her job and they said, we have a 401k plan, do you want to participate? She participated at the max. She consistently invested in the 401k plan, which meant that her money was being sprinkled all throughout the stock market. And so her money, like little seeds, were being sprinkled all throughout this fertile ground. And as the vegetation grew out of that ground, so did her money. So the same way sprinkling seeds onto a big plot of land will grow a bunch of crops, sprinkling her dollar bills out onto the fertile economic soil of the stock market led to tremendous growth in her money, just like that vegetation. So when harvest time comes, she's got something to harvest. And so one of the reasons that I constantly remind you guys, and I push you guys to look into this, and you can actually, there's a book on this on Amazon if you want to look at it, or you can probably find it somewhere if you Google search it. I created something called the $5 a day investment plan. And the $5 a day investment plan mathematically shows that if you simply, over the last 30 years, or 20 years had taken the amount of money that we spend on fast food, like $5 a day, and put that money in the stock market instead of giving it away, on fast food or whatever it is that you might have done with $5. All of us throw away $5 every now and then, sometimes 10, sometimes 20, sometimes 100. That money would have grown into tens of thousands of dollars in wealth. So while it's really difficult for me to explain to you how you can become rich over the weekend. It's very hard for me to explain to you how you can get rich by next month, right? It's very hard for me to explain how you can be a millionaire by the end of 2019. It's very easy, though, for me to explain how your child can be a millionaire by the time they're 30, 35 years old. That ain't nothing but basic math. That's like the difference between, let's say that you have two people. One person says, I want to walk. I want you to show me a path that will allow me to walk from LA to New York in 30 seconds or less. I want you to show me a path, a shortcut, so that I can walk from LA to New York and back and be back in 30 seconds. You would be like, that's impossible. Like, well, I can't do that. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not possible, right? But what if you change that whole scenario, but and change one little factor? What if instead of saying, I want you to show me how to walk from LA to New York in 30 seconds, the person said, I want you to show me how to walk from LA to New York in a year, right? But I'm gonna give you a year to do it. Well, then it's easy. It's easy to walk from LA to New York in a year because you've got time. You can take the long route and still walk from LA to New York and back, probably do it 2 or 3 times in the course of a year. Right? So the key idea with wealth is that when you add in the factor of time, that's when you have the ability to take a little bit of money and grow it into a lot. So what I'm really trying to get you to understand is that I don't want you really playing the wealth game just for yourself. You see, that's easy. That's primitive thinking. That's one-dimensional thinking. That's first grader thinking for us when we're thinking about ourselves, right? I want you to go to that next level. I don't want you to play checkers. I want you to play chess. I want you to think about, how do I make sure that my kids and my grandkids are millionaires? That's a much easier game to play. It's a much more impactful game to play. It also gives you the ability to live forever. When you leave a legacy for your children and grandchildren, and they're living good because of what you put in place, that allows you to have an impact that goes out far beyond the length of a human life. I mean, imagine if you had one, great grandmother, back in 1905, who was in the middle of the struggle, who was broke as hell, who just simply said, I'm going to take my extra little pennies that I'm making for washing clothes for white folks, and I'm going to put those pennies into some investments for my children and grandchildren. So I'm gonna save up. If I can buy a little piece of land, I'm gonna buy that little piece of land. If I can buy me a couple of stocks, I'm gonna buy those little stocks. Do you understand that grandmother could literally have made you into a multimillionaire to the point where you wouldn't have to work right now? Like literally, because they have the gift of time. Time is actually much, much, much more valuable than money, not just from an ideological standpoint, but also from a mathematical standpoint. When we look at the equations, when we break down all the equations that determine how wealth grows, and you break down all the variables, like in calculus, mathematics, we can do these things called derivatives, where you can figure out which variable plays the biggest part in the equation. The biggest factor is actually time. Time is the number one variable in that equation. So what I want you to focus on when it comes to wealth building is not income. Income is flashy. Everybody notices income. Everybody knows how much money Floyd Mayweather made in his last fight, whatever. Income is flashy, but that's not what matters. The big gorilla in the room in the wealth equation is actually time. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. I need to save a little bit of energy because I got to give a speech tomorrow. But if you want to go check out the stock market program, feel free to go to theblackstockmarketprogram.com. That's theblackstockmarketprogram.com. If you're on the Black Financial Channel, please hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to the Black Financial Channel as well. This is where we talk about wealth and what's going on with the stock market. As I told you guys, the stock market is doing very well today. If you are an investor, shout out how much money you made, because I know that you made money. If you're properly diversified, you probably made money today. What I would just say to you as well is just be consistent and keep believing. Some people don't believe the things that we talk about. But I'm very confident talking about these things because I'm an expert on this. This is what I know. So I'm okay if people don't understand it, because when I didn't understand these things, I didn't believe these things either. Right? I had to see the math. I had to actually read the theories. I had to think about this 10 million times to get to the point that I am right now. So I'm not, it doesn't hurt my feelings or it doesn't offend me when people say, oh, I think you're full of crap. It really is the kind of thing that you have to see to believe. You have to understand it to really see it. So that's it's something that I want to lay out for you guys, to maybe look at things in a different way, because I do believe that Black people can win the wealth battle, whether white people help us or not. I'm a big believer in our ability to do for self. And one of the reasons that I'm big on the whole do for self ideology is not because I don't believe white people owe us something, not because I don't believe white people should pay us. It's because I just don't trust them to do what's best for us. I trust us to do what's best for us. And I don't believe in other people. I believe in us, and so, call me a black supremacist if you want to, whatever the hell you want to call me. But I love my team, and I believe my team can win this championship. So go out here and do your thing, fight your battle, be your best self, and I love you guys, and I will see you guys very, very soon. Take care.